Hi, I'm Steve Wheeler and I'm at the Oslo Eden Annual Conference here in Norway, and I'm very happy to be joined by one of our keynote speakers for today, Professor Sugata Mitra, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, Sugata.
Thank you.
And we have spoken many times before about your work, but now we've finally got a chance to sit together and have, I suppose, an informal chat about what you're doing right now. Now, firstly, I think we need to paint the background. You are well known for your work with the Hole in the Wall project. Can you explain for people who may not know what that is, how it came about?
Well, that's a very old project, so 14 years ago, and its purpose was to show that, that children don't need to be taught how to use a computer, which is a result I think now everybody knows. But at that time it wasn't so obvious, so I just put computers in public spaces in very poor areas in India, and found that children would teach themselves to use the internet to do Google searches in 3 or 4 months, even though they didn't know any English.
These are specially built computers, weren't they? They were dust and water resistant.
Well, there was no high-tech in it. I just copied the design of a bank ATM, except that I used bigger screens.
Right.
And it was like a do-it-yourself ATM.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you call that minimally invasive education, I think. Now, that's the correct term for it, is that right?
Yes, actually there's a little history there, which I don't think many people know. At that point in my life, I was working with a multimedia system for a hospital. Right. And in its minimally invasive surgery department.
Right.
And alongside, the hole in the wall experiment was happening in the streets of Delhi. So one morning I woke up and said, that's minimally invasive education.
So it's a form of laparoscopic learning, I suppose, really,
yes,
you could call it.
Right.
That's fascinating. Now, later on today, you're going to be having a conversation with Sir Ken Robinson, who's coming in live, which is exciting to have these two guys together on the same stage virtually. What kind of conversation do you think you're going to have with him?
Well, if I had my way, which is difficult with Sir Ken, I would like to examine what learning means in the present context, right. And what knowing means in the present context, and how important it is, and what's the role of memory.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
You made a very profound statement in an interview that I did with you earlier in the year, where you said that you thought that knowledge was obsolete. Do you actually mean that?
No. People often get it wrong. It's a question which actually Nicholas Negroponte helped me to frame. It's not that knowledge is obsolete, it's that knowing is obsolete.
Right.
Because you don't really need to know as in keep something inside your brain. At the point in time when you need to know it, you can know it in seconds.
Because of the technology being
Because of the technology, because of the all-pervasiveness of the internet, because so many things are on it.
I suppose that also implicates or indicates that there are other people involved in the technology. So therefore, it's about connecting with other people through the technology, isn't it, really?
It's absolutely about other people, because for a piece of knowledge to exist on the internet, someone has to know it and someone has to put it there. But it doesn't have to be me.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
And so therefore, we store our knowledge with our friends. I think Deborah Stevenson said once, and I think that's an important idea for the connectivist type of theories that are coming out now. Which leads us on actually to some work that you're doing now with the School in the Cloud, with what we used to call the Granny Cloud.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, the Granny Cloud was basically a loose term, because it's actually people who are interested in children who have a bit of time and who know how to use Skype. And the idea was that if you are, for example, a retired school teacher, why can't I take an hour of your time per week and give it away for free to children who need you? So that's how the Granny Cloud operates today. Then I did some other work which showed that children who can read, if they're allowed to cluster around computers, can answer some really deep, big questions, which we called a self-organized learning environment, or SOUL. So it is kind of logical that at some point we bring the soul and the Granny Cloud together. And if we do that, we get, I suppose, I could say, we get the purest form of distance education for children that you can think of. You know, a facility which has no humans in it.
That's fascinating, and I'm sure you're going to expand upon that in your keynote.
I will touch upon it, although you know, the data hasn't started coming. I'm only building it now.
Right, so it's mainly theoretical. I suppose the other question which I want to bring to you, because I want you to defend yourself, several people have criticised you recently about the work that you've been doing with not just the Hole in the Wall, but with recent things about the school in the cloud and so on. I think one of the main criticisms, I suppose, is that they say that you're doing away with teachers completely. Is that what you intend to do, and if so, why? Why is that?
No, I do not, definitely do not intend to do away with teachers, because if nothing else, I am a teacher myself. So it would be a bit suicidal. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that where you have a good teacher, you can use the internet as an extremely powerful learning tool. Where you don't have a good teacher, you can still use the internet and get to far above where a poor quality teacher will reach. And where you have no teachers, you can have a viable alternative.
So what you're doing in essence is you're not just bridging the geographical divides, you're also bridging the cultural and the political divides as well, are you?
The cultural divide, the political divide, the linguistic divide,
right.
All of it can be bridged. And we don't have to say to remote children, remote in any sense, we don't have to say to them, wait until we have enough money to build you a school. We can say, you can have it now.
Last question, the big one really. What's the future of education for you?
Well, I could take two extreme stances on it. Let me take the polite one first. Schools have to change,
right.
And teachers have to change, which means curricula has to change, pedagogy has to change, and assessment has to change. All of it. It's not improving a school, it's reinventing the school. That's what's required in the immediate future.
Right.
On the other extreme, do we need an education at all?
That's a big question. Do we?
Do we need an education at all? Or is it that we are fond of education as something that we've always had? Like, you know, we have nails and teeth and things like that. You know, it was designed for a purpose when, you know, they were very important. But now all we need to do is to cut them once in a while.
That's a very profound end, I think, to our conversation. Thank you once again, Sugata, for spending some time with us today, and I wish you well later on in your keynote. Thank you.
That came out, I don't know from where.